Well, everybody. Let's just say, and for those who go by the Julian calendar, um, Blessed Samhain. No, it was earlier. Anyway, um, right. I've been wanting to do something on this subject for a while, but wasn't given the really good opportunity to do it. And this gave me the impetus to. It's the Great Debate again, and on Sky News, and this one is how do we solve Britain's immigration dilemma? Now, before we start, I will say I'd like to reiterate, if you haven't watched any of my videos, I am not an absolutist. So when if I portray a view, that is because I have also taken into account the balance of the scale. Yeah, it's not nothing to me that I don't see absolutes. So, unlike what the Tory party likes to accuse of Labour, like they want it unlimited, like we want unlimited immigration, which is fucking bullshit. It's about doing it humanely and not doing it as a fucking political football. You know, people trying to come here illegally, and it's like, well, how else are they supposed to get here? You know, the British government refused to go into making the what do you call it, the refugee centre. You know, in Calais. If we put the funding in the right places to do the right things, this wouldn't be as big a problem. It would still be a problem, sort of. The other thing is this all this hard border shit is one of the reasons that our economy is hit more in that on the Labour side of things. Isn't that the working, having workers. So yeah, we've got to approach this with a rational, logical mind and a mindset, and in doing that, we've got to be sure with what we're saying, and we can't just be going, "Oh, they're Albanians, so there's nothing wrong with them." It's a democracy. It's only just a democracy, and there is serious political instability in the country. Or not only that, but there are actual verified claims of sexual trafficking coming from Albania. They're trying to escape. There are people trying to escape the place. Deny it all you want. I'm not saying that it's the. I mean, it is a big problem, but it's not the reason. There's no one reason for everything. There are multiple reasons for all of this. And one of the things I'm going to get really pissed off at if people are like, why don't they stay in France? Because they don't speak French, and the French, I'm sorry, are not exactly the most welcoming to immigrants and refugees. They're just not. They don't feel welcome, and they don't speak the language. Not only that, but France has a better claim to say they're full up with immigrants, and Germany, than Britain ever does. Oh, we've got too many coming up. Well, if we put up proper ways for them to get here, then we wouldn't have this issue, or we have less of this issue. But you got rid of it with your fucking austerity measures. So the right needs to get their fucking mindset in order. Like, you can't have cake and eat it. But you just can't. It's ridiculous to even think you can. Anyway, so yeah, this immigration. I believe that you know, Britain wouldn't be what it is without immigration. If you believe otherwise, then you are stupid. The reason why this place, this island, is even called England, originally with the Ash letter, the weird AE letter, Ash. England. The only reason the Angles and the Saxons and the Frisians and the Jutas came here was because they were technically immigrants because of the Hun invasion coming in from the east. So, we in this country we have three main blood groups. That of a more Anglo-Saxon, that of or Anglo-Frisian, that of more of Celtic persuasion, and that of a mix of Anglo-Saxon or Celt with Viking. And it's the same with Ireland, especially around Dublin. And I think in Scotland you get it up in the north and towards where Dalriadan was, and Glasgow now. Anyway, but that proves my point. Like, Britain would not be what it is without immigration. So people going, "Oh, we don't want these immigrants coming over," it's stupid. Look, I get that we can't just open the floodgates and let everyone in who wants to come in, because we need, for a start, we need the infrastructure to deal with it. Before we can even, we need to look at this as a multi-pronged problem. You need the infrastructure in this country to deal with it. You need the infrastructure in, say, France and elsewhere in Europe. You don't have to do too many, right? Especially if you do it in partnership with those countries, right? You then have to think, you then have to think of the tricky problem on what you do with the boats. However, with technology, we have the right funding in the right places, and the right thinking in the right places, this surely would be less of a problem. Anyway. Oh, and by the way, I live on the south coast. So anyone wants to go, yes, I might live in Torbay, but, I live on the south coast. So, fuck you.
Welcome to the show that puts you at the centre of the national conversation, talking about the issues that matter to you the most. Tonight, immigration, the tricky issue that has tormented government after government for decades, and many believe...
Again, I go by the Anglo-Saxon, the lunar Anglo-Saxon calendar. I go by, a lot of my traditions are of Anglo-Saxon pagan or North pagan or Celtic pagan. But, that's just proves, that even amongst the white peoples, there are different cultures. So, and even, pagans in this country aren't exactly getting it easy. We're just shoved under the carpet at a sight.
Lay behind Brexit. Tonight it has the Home Secretary under pressure again. Suella Braverman has already...
Yeah, she fucking made a right fool of it. I might actually make a video of it if I can find the right find the right thing here if I can find the right video clip of her speech in Parliament today. I'll do a review on that as well. I was so fucking I had to stop watching it after about half an hour to 45 minutes when it was on there live, because she was just pissing me off more and more.
Resigned once, admitting that she broke the rules that govern ministerial conduct. Now,
whilst lying in the process, whilst admitting that she got done something wrong, she was lying to make the punishment less severe. It's fucking ridiculous.
She's back, but chaos at an overcrowded asylum processing centre in Kent has some, even those on her own side, wondering whether she'll make it through Halloween. I'm Trevor Phillips, and this is The Great Debate. Tonight, the MPs knocking at Home Secretary Suella Braverman's door won't be asking for treats. They want answers. Why are there more than twice as many asylum seekers as there should be at the Manston Immigration Processing Centre?
Yeah, I forgot that. That's another one I was going to do specifically. I might as well do a bit here now. It was said that the guy was mentally impaired. He might well be. But what fed his paranoia? What gave him the paranoia? All this fucking incendiary bullshit. And if you're going to try and say otherwise, I'm going to tell you to fucking do one. And stop being an ignorant twat. Look, freedom of speech means that if you can say what you like. Yeah, this is true. But if I think what you said is stupid, it means I also have the right to call you fucking stupid. So the right that like to bitch, oh yeah, he's pending up it. No, yeah, but when we try to say things because of our right of freedom of speech, you then tell us to shut the fuck up. So where's our freedom of speech, cunt? Not towards Trevor, but
did
still.
she ignore legal advice that might have allowed more accommodation to relieve the pressure?
And she said in Parliament several times, no. Like, literally, she said it like that. And she also said, wrong, about the accusations about this stuff. And it was like, people are briefing out against you, love. Like, just leave.
And what's she going to do about what she has said?
Yeah, but again, back on this migrant centre, like this. I was watching the fictional series, what was it called? Cobra. With Robert Carlyle in it. Fucking legend. Brilliant programme. And that bit in it where, you know, they're up north and this guy gets fucking lynched because of perfect representation of a Tory being incendiary and then something violent happening. I swear Cobra predicted that happening. I mean, the guy didn't exactly get lynched. You know, an immigrant didn't get lynched. It was just a single guy launching shit. But it's a similar thing, isn't it? Violence towards towards invaders, even though they're not invaders, to these migrants and immigrants and refugees, without actual just cause, through paranoia. And this guy is just the most extreme end. As I said, this is everything. I'm not an absolutist. Everything's on a scale. And this guy was just the absolute extreme end of things. And this feeling has been bubbling up because of stupid assholes like Nigel fucking Farage, Boris fucking Johnson, Nadine fucking Dorries, Priti fucking Patel, Cruella fucking Braverman, Lee fucking Anderson. All of them fucking liars. And incendiary fucking liars. If I ever see them, will have no compunction whatsoever I will have every compunction, to walk limp right up to them and call them lying cunts. Literally those words, you can quote me. Lying incendiary cunts. Quote me on it. I have no fear of these bastards. And yet, everyone's like, oh yeah, you I have family members that are like, oh, but why can't they stay in France? Because they don't speak French. They speak, more often than not, they speak their own native language, or because we went into their country to fight their dictators, they speak a bit of English, but they don't speak French. So why the fuck would they want to stay in a place where they are both not wanted and they can't be understood? Or they can't understand the people there? If we are so opening with our arms, then let's show it.
Today called our broken asylum system. And does she even have a plan to tackle the wider labour shortages that are crippling the economy? As ever, our viewers panel from around the country and indeed around the world will have their say and they will tell their stories. And joining us in the studio tonight are the Conservative MP for Dover, Natalie Elphicke, Labour's Shadow Immigration Minister, Stephen Kinnock, the barrister, former asylum seeker and human rights campaigner, Aderonke Apata.
Heard her speak before.
And the Deputy Director of the Migration Observatory, Rob McNeil. The big question tonight, how do we solve Britain's immigration dilemma?
The cost of our asylum system has topped £2 billion a year. The Home Secretary is under growing pressure over the treatment of refugees and migrants when they arrive in the UK.
4,000 people in a facility that was designed to hold 1,500. That is wholly unacceptable.
Let's stop pretending that they are all refugees in distress. The whole country knows that...
The minority of them are coming... The minority of them that are coming here out of with malintent. Minority. That doesn't mean you treat the rest of them the same. Like I said, it's classism. The Tories are just, oh, you can't call us racist. We can't. Look at the woman saying this stuff. She's not. She's just the same colour. No, she just doesn't want she doesn't want others getting the same advantages that her and her family got. That's classist. The Tories are disguising their classism by saying they're not racist. It might sound stupid, but I'm pretty sure that's exactly what they have been doing and what they have done and what they're going to continue to do until they are called out on it. And even then, I don't think it's going to stop.
Is not true.
They should send them to Rwanda. And them that can't go to Rwanda, send them back to France.
That doesn't work, you ignorant bitch. People jumping on this fucking stupid bandwagon just because of hate. Born of ignorance and fear. Instigated by incendiary lying bastards.
There is absolutely nothing racist about wanting Britain to have secure borders that work.
No, that's true. But it'd be nice if you did it in a way that was not actually racist.
We saw dozens of migrants.
Look at the way that, people are like, when I love it when the left bring up, well, you're quite willing to welcome Ukrainians. Oh yeah, but they're fleeing a war. So were the Syrians, you fuck. What about the Afghanis? Also fleeing a war. Oh, well, that's been happening. Still fleeing a war? Fucking, oh.
Throwing a boat to the sea in full sight of French police officers who did nothing to stop them.
I was angry about that myself. Right? And I don't understand what's going on there. It's like, I just let it be Britain. But then, as I already said, and this might be controversial, I don't care. I'm not going to apologise for saying this. The French don't exactly treat Like the accusation is Britain is institutionally racist, and whilst there are a lot of people saying, "Oh no, it isn't," I will continue to agree that it fucking is. France is the same, if not worse. It is a bigger country. They're not welcome, and they don't understand the language.
It's not sustainable to keep doing this.
And it does. I have had this wonder if some of the police forces are being bribed, or border forces, whatever, are being bribed by the criminal gangs that are running this shit.
Right, let's begin, as we always do, with our viewers panel joining us on the screen.
20 minutes.
And talk to John Soderberg. John, you're in Lancaster, I think.
That's right. Trevor, good evening.
Good evening, John. Your thoughts?
Well, if we look at the current issue, it's probably one of two problems. The first...
Soderberg. Sounds either Dutch or German. Oh, so he's also from a family of immigrants.
Part of the problem is getting to our waters in this instance, or on our shores, and the second problem is what we do with them. I'm really focusing on the first part of it, and that I'm concerned that France in particular is turning a blind eye to the immigrants that are coming into this country in this manner, i.e. the small boats, and this begs the question as to whether the UK is allowing France to ignore tens of thousands of illegal immigrants departing from their shores each year. And indeed, up to the 10th month, which is finishing today, it's a record 40,000 immigrants. We had 28,000 last year, to give some context. So my question to the panel is, what is France's role in all of this?
Thank you very much for that, John. We'll come back to that in a second. Let's speak to Victoria Scholes. Victoria, I think you're in Sunbury-on-Thames, and you also have a question for our panel.
Yes, so whilst I support workers coming over to do skilled jobs, and they should be in this country to help.
This is another line that I feel is a very right-wing and rather fascist in a sense. You can't come here unless you can contribute. What about if they want to live... If you let them live their lives, they're likely to contribute.
Build out infrastructure. What I don't believe in is the illegal immigrants and migrants coming over on the boats.
Over the simplification. I don't agree with the... Neither do I. But I also don't agree with the fact that the Tories have been closing down these refugee centres across Europe, the British-run ones across Europe, for the last decade. Blame the Tories. Don't blame... And the criminals running this shit, and possibly the French. Don't blame them.
How can we, the UK, financially support those from other countries when we can't look after our own? So my question is, how...
See, again, this is another fallacy. Again, it's in my eye, fair enough. But as far as I'm concerned, we do have the funds here and the resources to look after our own people and others. You know why we're struggling? Because of poor management and poor distribution. That's fucking why. Poor policies. Well, at least in terms of people down at our end, down at her end. So stop going on believing the Tory and right-wing lie bullshit. It's brain melting, I swear. Hang on, 2 secs. Yeah, like, and you will get from the right, oh, but you on the left just want unfettered immigration. No, don't put words into our mouths. We never said that. You said that. It's one of the only things that you can use is demonisation. It's the only viable tactic you have left is demonisation. And look how it's feeding through. Sorry, wrong button.
Can we stop the small boats?
Victoria, thank you very much. Well, there's a direct question from Victoria Scold. How do we stop the small boats? Natalie Elphick, this is your shore, isn't it?
It certainly is, and it's very much my shore that the boats are arriving into. They come into the Dover facility. And I think in those questions, it's absolutely hit the nail on the head that these are boats that are leaving from France. And there's absolutely no need for anyone to get in one of these small boats. It's illegal immigration. It's run by criminal gangs, and it's incredibly dangerous.
Then why have you not set up the infrastructure?
Just last year, 27 lives were lost in a single day. More than 100 people are thought...
Yeah, but what led to it?
Lost, not accounted for. It's really important that we actually take action on the French side, they stop the boats getting in the water, and that we actually also save lives in the process.
So you would specifically, how would you stop those boats? How would they actually be held up?
Well, I'd like to see joint patrols with France on the beaches.
Military patrols?
Well, I think joint patrols with our border officers and their border officers, indeed with other European partners as well. I think it's absolutely vital that we actually give that support. They need to have more bodies on the ground. But also, as we've seen in some of that footage, I'm sorry to say, sometimes they have been standing by, even shockingly, when women and children have been put on those boats, and the French haven't intervened in that. So that's got to change. We've got to tackle it first and foremost in France on their shores.
Stephen Kinnock, I think we're spending something north of £100 million a year on helping France patrol
the money's not
that bit of its shore that looks towards the White Cliffs of Dover. Are we getting our value for money?
My understanding is that about 50% of those who attempt to cross are being stopped. So that's clearly not good enough. And there's massive room for improvement. The government needs to rebuild its relationship with the French government, which has not gone into a good place, I would say, generally speaking, since Brexit. And of course, the previous Prime Minister's comments about not being sure whether President Macron is a friend or a foe were deeply unhelpful. But to get to the heart of this issue, we've got to sort out the processing of asylum claims in the UK, because that system has completely collapsed. And the result of that is that those people who want to come across on small boats know that once they've got to the UK, they'll be here for at least 2, 3 or 4 or 5 years, because the system has collapsed. So if we actually got to the heart of the matter, speeding up the processing, which means resourcing the Home Office properly with decision makers and caseworkers, you would then, if you were going to pay $10,000 to a people smuggler, you'd think twice if you knew that within 2 or 3 months your claim could well be rejected and you could well be sent back. But if you know you're going to be in the UK for 2, 3 or 4 years, even in limbo, it's a gamble worth taking.
Well, you brought that up, Stephen. Isn't the real reason that they know that they will not be sent off somewhere else is because in January 2021, we, after leaving the EU, came out of what was called the Dublin Convention, which meant that we could return people who landed here very quickly, very swiftly, to countries on the continent where they might have been fingerprinted and identified. But when we came out, actually, we couldn't do that anymore. And in fact, if you look at the numbers, it's quite striking. 2020, fewer than 9,000 coming across on the boat. 2021, 29,000.
Yeah.
Isn't that the...
That's actually really quite funny. I wonder, Max, if you watch this, as in Maximilian Robespierre, if you watch this, dude, right, I'd love for you to pick out this clip from here and please just do a video, because that was perfect.
Reason.
You are absolutely right. And when you combine...
Like, there's a Brexit stat for you.
That the fact that the former Prime Minister but one, Boris Johnson, completely botched the Brexit negotiations and failed to negotiate a successor to the Dublin Convention, combine that with the collapse of processing of asylum claims in the Home Office, you have a perfect storm, which has led to these massive backlogs and has acted as a magnet for more and more people wanting to come over.
Aderonke, I mean, we've had a lot of conversation about Home Office incompetence and so on and so forth, but do you think that actually at the root of this there's bigger forces here, one of which we've just been discussing?
My thinking is this. It is not something that anybody wants to do, wants to go on the small boats, that is wanting to have covenant with death. It's been mentioned here that children and women die on those boats. And that's not what should happen. What should happen is for governments to provide safe passage. Because when there's safe passage, we can cut off the people smugglers, and people would not die unnecessarily. That is more of compassion. People can come into the UK through what we can call the legal route, which is quite safe for them, and then they can claim asylum.
It's providing
there would not be this backlog.
Providing those legal routes and making sure those legal routes are in place. Unfortunately, the Tories and the more racist French have been shutting them down.
And the possibility of people dying.
Oh, and Max or Political X or whoever watches this, if you disagree with me, let me know. Again, I'd love to have a chat with you guys.
Carrie-Anne Jones, you asked the question about this. You just heard what Aderonke has said, that actually nobody really wants to get on a boat, but actually there must be better ways of doing this. You are there in Dover. You're seeing what's coming into town. How do you respond to what's been said?
You're going to have to start again, though, because that didn't come through well.
Carrie-Anne, we had a bit of trouble with your sound there. I wonder if you could just start again, because I know that you've had a direct experience with meeting some of the migrants.
Yes, I live directly on one of the routes that is used when they come in the dinghies off of the beaches. My house is literally round the corner from the beach, and I had somebody in August actually caught half over my back gate who petrified me to the point of I now sleep with a sledgehammer. I'm a single parent to a 6-year-old autistic little girl.
That must be terrifying. Do you...
Absolutely scary as anything.
Do you understand, though, what Aderonke is saying here, that it would take something to make somebody take the risk of getting on these boats, crossing one of the busiest sea lanes in the world, with the knowledge that people have been tipped out, people have drowned on that crossing?
Oh, yes, they definitely do. I mean, where I live, you actually see the search and rescue helicopters. So I know firsthand that it does. And I totally agree with what she was saying. There does need to be a safe route. Women and children should not come this way whatsoever.
Natalie Elphicke, we've got if you like, a collision of two ghastly things here. The awful problem of the people who are risking their lives and somebody who's scared out of her wits.
Absolutely. And that situation of the boats landing is on a number of the coastal villages and areas in my constituency of Dover and Deal. And it's been going on for a very long time. And people do get extremely frightened. And I completely understand their concerns. Boats shouldn't be landing on the beaches. People shouldn't be having those experiences. So it's really vital that we get a grip of this issue. Turning to that question as to whether people are safe. People are safe in France. There is no reason to be getting in one of these small...
Even the bird? Oh my God. Oh, this is hilarious, right? Watch it yourself, but you will see the fact that whilst this Tory MP is talking, what's her name? Natalie Elphicke, right? The woman who was just talking who scared the bejeebus out of, right? She's shaking her head at what what the Tory MP is saying.
More boats. It's absolutely vital that people claim asylum if they need help and assistance in France or one of the many other safe countries that they come to. If we go down another route, I think we just put more into the hands of the criminal gangs. And that's what we've seen, this problem getting worse and worse and worse.
Stop
we really need to
criminalising those people trying to get here.
On the French side to make sure that we work with France on the beaches and across the Channel. In that way, if migrants and people smugglers know they can't get across the country in a small boat, it will stop.
Rob McNeil, why is it not possible to stop people leaving the beaches at Calais?
Well, I think one of the first things that we should probably bear in mind is that there's a sort of presumption in a lot of these conversations that France isn't doing anything to try and address this problem. Well, I mean, other than obviously the patrols on the beach, but France has seen quite a lot more asylum applications than the UK. It's granted asylum to more people than the UK. France is also almost certainly not the port of entry into Europe that most of these people have come. So they will be potentially
they've had to get through other countries to get there because
from
they want to get
Italy
here.
or from Greece.
From Albania.
Or from Albania, via Italy or via Italy and then France, presumably. But that process means that if you consistently basically say, well, it's not our problem, it's the country next to us' problem, say France's problem, then you're constantly pushing things back.
It's always, it's not our problem, it's their problem. Why can't it be their problem? They've already got a fucking problem. And there are going to be people there saying, why can't Germany or Italy take them? It's because they're fucking full up as well. We take a fraction of the amount and we bitch and we complain. It is stupid.
And that doesn't necessarily help very much. I think it's also important to recognise that stopping people from coming over, I mean, I think everybody's agreed that people coming over on boats is extremely dangerous. It's not a desirable scenario. It is a scenario which has been, to some extent, created by a suite of actions that have been taken to try to prevent irregular migration before. So the securitisation of the port of Calais was undertaken specifically to try to prevent irregular migration in the first place. And the outcome of that was to basically push people towards different approaches to doing this. And those different approaches, I mean, the idea, realistically, was that by adding security to the port of Calais, you create a barrier which was too dangerous for people to consider. Yeah. So effectively, the risk of death was the deterrent. But unfortunately, we've seen that doesn't work. And so recognising that one has to take steps that are going to be a little bit more about negotiation and diplomacy rather than sort of trying to put a hard line somewhere.
Let's see what the view of our wall is on that question. It's essentially about our relations with the French. Now, I'm going to ask our viewers panel the question, whether you think in reality it is possible for this government to do a deal with the French that would achieve what some of our panelists have been,
the attitude
and the been talking about,
Tory government
to find a way through this. Can we do a deal with the French?
There are a lot of people
that
saying
Mr. Sunak, Ms. Braverman have what it takes to do that deal with the French. Hands up. We'll just panel a little bit and see, because I'm actually not seeing anybody who
there's a number of people undecided, but there are quite a lot of people that are thumbs down.
And there are quite a lot of thumbs down.
Majority, a good 80% at least, say no.
Natalie, before I'm going to come back to some.
I just want to again, if there are people on the left who call them who will call Suella Braverman, Sneaky Sue, Leaky Sue, and Sneaky Sunak racists, and I'm like, it's not racism, it's classism. It's typical Tory. It's typical Tory classism. Just done in the modern guise of disguising their, saying that they're not racist.
Natalie Elphicke, that's pretty conclusive, isn't it? Nobody seems to think that we can do a deal with the French.
Well, we did see last year that, you know, an offer, a really sensible offer was made to President Macron, which he turned down after these dreadful deaths that happened about joint patrols.
Yeah, I wonder why. Because in the immediate aftermath, Tory MPs were coming out and being incendiary. So the French went, you know what, fuck you. And you know what? I don't blame them.
But more recently, there have been warmer conversations, and my understanding is that those have been going much more positively. I think it's absolutely vital that we take that action, we have that diplomacy, that we do everything we can to stop the crossings on the French side.
All right, let's widen it out a little bit from our relations with France, and let's talk to Marcia in Oldham, who herself was an asylum seeker. Marcia, talk to us about your story.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Marcia Babakar Khail, and I'm a former judge and women activist from Afghanistan.
Nice.
I was targeted by the Taliban. They twice tried to kill me. And finally, I escaped from my country and came to the UK. I put asylum, and in 2016, I became a British citizen. When I arrived in the country, I cannot speak a word of English. So I joined the college to learn the language and learn the culture of this country. And currently, I'm working as a caseworker with
So she's trying to do good even while she's
to
here.
support and help people who need.
Fucking legend.
For me, is the best way to welcome a refugee, to give them chance to contribute and support each other. I tried, and I'm trying my best to build bridges and contribute in this country and give back.
I wish you
to the UK
every success.
because I count UK like my home.
Okay, Marcia, thank you very much. Stephen, would you say that this is perhaps a more typical story than some of the ones that are concerning us today?
Can I just say how inspiring it was to hear Marcia's story? That is about the spirit of the people who come here. What an amazing person, a female judge in Afghanistan. It takes real courage to be that in the first place. And I just wanted to pay tribute to Marcia for what you've achieved and how you've come here and learned English and contributing so much to our society. And it really is heartwarming to hear that kind of story. I think that we have to remember that there are many, many people who are fleeing violence and persecution. And that's what the refugee system is about. We've signed up to that since the Second World War. Winston Churchill played a key role in that.
I find it funny here. This isn't the only place that I've noticed it, right? But Labour politicians have been putting the boot into the Tory party in several of these things by bringing up a former Tory like Churchill, the racist cunt, that were for good policies, like, and basically shaming the current Tories. It's brilliant.
So let's never forget that 75% of the people who claim asylum in our country are granted asylum because they are genuine refugees. What we need is a process to ensure that those who are not valid asylum seekers are separated out and sent back to their country of origin.
Something just occurred to me, alongside the infrastructure to take them in and register them and whatnot. There needs to be some partnership, some closer partnership with is it MI6 and MI5, for both the foreign, what's going on in Europe and what's going on at home. So this could be done more efficiently, but the Tories cannot be bothered because they want to use this as a weapon. True. This has been a problem for decades. But, it's not like the Tories have made it any better.
Origin, but the system is so clogged up and broken that the problem with it is, and even brilliant people like Marcia get caught up in all of the bad vibes around this whole question.
We are going to go on to talk exactly about that, the issue of process. You're watching The Great Debate. Up next, Suella Braverman vowed to do whatever it takes to reduce the numbers arriving in small boats.
But I get that it's probably politically, for her base, it's probably a politically advantageous thing to say. But this whole thing of, you know, doing whatever it takes, that that sounds very dictatorial and very, it sounds like the seeds of fascism.
But is the plan to send people to Rwanda a workable solution?
No.
Or do we need to find...
No, it fucking is not. It costs more to take them there than it does to keep them in the hotels. And even then, as we've seen, that's not good enough.
Another way.
I would love to be...
Oh, and we got the blatant... We're about to hear the bullshit out of her in a second. Her dream. But something from what she said earlier, and I'm likely to do a review either later tonight or tomorrow on her speech earlier in Parliament. But she has no idea. It's like she has no idea of the pain, no care whatsoever of the horrors that most of these people have gone through to get here. Like, but so, again, under her rules, her parents wouldn't be able to come here. It's ridiculous. It's the same with Priti Patel. I'm pretty sure it was. You can verify me with that. You can verify that for me or not. It just. What we are, the direction we're going, as I have said before, and I will keep saying, is extraordinarily dangerous.
Having a front page of the Telegraph with a plane taking off to Rwanda. That's my dream. The Rwanda scheme is eye-wateringly mad and callous.
We don't think it's immoral to offer a home to people.
No, it's not immoral to offer a home to people, but with some of those that are coming over being gay and are still being sent to you, or wanting to, you know, these dickheads are wanting them to send gay people to you, and being gay in your country is illegal. Other countries stopped a deal with you and other African countries because that kind of deal doesn't work. People, the Tories keep bringing up Australia, and it turns out that it just made things really cruel. So...
More than 1,000 people crossed the channel over the weekend.
We know we have to do more because the numbers are still completely unacceptable.
Got this stuff in it.
You either live and...
A day. How 1,000. The government. How do we solve Britain's immigration dilemma? To say there are huge challenges for the Home Office is putting it mildly. The number of migrants who've crossed the Channel so far this year in small boats has almost reached 40,000. The government's now spending £6.8 million a day housing asylum seekers in hotels. There's a surge in illegal migration from Albania, and the plan to process people in Rwanda has been stalled in the courts, with campaigners claiming it's immoral. So, what should be the way forward if there is one? Let's talk to Charles Quay. Charles, you're in Clacton-on-Sea in Essex.
Yes, hello, Trevor.
Good evening, Charles. What's your view?
Good evening, Trevor. I mean, what I want to say is that Rishi Sunak spoke about integrity and accountability, but shortly afterwards appointed Suella Braverman as Home Secretary, a few days after she was being sacked by Liz Truss for breaching ministerial code. Suella Braverman, I think, must be forced to resign. She's a barrister and also a former Attorney General. Now, would it be right to say that she should deal with her own false appointment into office before she attempts addressing British migration issues and the government Rwanda scheme?
Okay, Charles, as ever, not mincing your word. Let's see if we can find another point of view. Let's see if Crisilda Basu is an old friend of the programme. Crisilda, you're in Altenham. What's your thought about what Charles has just said? Pretty hostile to the government.
In my opinion, the Rwanda scheme should work if it's given a chance. As a country, it has shown to be progressive. Other countries in the past has been through the type of war that Rwanda experienced in
Look, it's better than it was, but it's still not great. I'm sorry, no.
94.
And not only that, but this is not. They don't want to go to Rwanda. Don't punish them. They don't want to go to Rwanda. They want to come here. Fuck's sake.
And those countries are functioning on the...
You know, all this rhetoric about, oh, we've got to take on the criminal gangs. So what we're going to do is punish the people coming here. What? It's not a deterrent.
Global stage. I think that there are organisations
the board,
who
across
do
the
not
board,
want
people
to
are disagreeing with
promote
this woman.
Africa in a good light. To Suella Braverman,
One, maybe two people
the
clap
Home
into it, but
Secretary, is the right
most of it's...
person to make the Rwanda
Again, if you don't
scheme
believe me,
work.
check it out.
Okay, thank you, Crisilda.
laughing
Putting
at
that
her.
view forward is courageous, if nothing else. Natalie, Rwanda's not got lots of supporters on our wall.
Well, I think what we've got to see is it was part of a package of measures brought forward to try and tackle this issue. And as we've seen, 40,000 people now have come into the country through the small boats routes. This has been increasing year on year. It's become increasingly difficult to deal with the process backlog, as we've discussed. And so, the idea behind this is to make sure that people are looked after safely in line with our obligations, but also to make sure that they can be processed quickly so we can deal with some of those backlogs that we've got. But at the moment, it's stuck in the courts. It's, people who don't like it have held it up in the courts, and we don't know how long that's going to take. It could be months, it could be more than a year.
Okay, Adronke, you heard what somebody said there about, essentially, the reason that people don't fancy the Rwanda scheme very much is that they're dissing Africa.
Well, I don't think so. It's not about projecting Africa in a wrong or right way. This is about human beings.
But honestly, do you think people would react in the same way if instead of Rwanda we were talking about Canada, which quite likes having immigrants?
I'm sure people will still react the same way, especially in a place where there's no oversight. Because right here in the UK, we have seen problems from the government, especially in detention centers, where there's no oversight to see what's going on there for people that are being detained. How do you monitor people from here that would be taken to Rwanda, offshoring? In fact, we're talking about stopping people smuggling. To me, the government is kind of doing the same thing, wanting to send people to Rwanda.
Okay.
Which I think it's not right, because In fact, when you look at people that are seeking asylum, that are LGBTIQ, that's another problem there.
Okay.
The government impact assessment says that LGBTIQ people are not safe in Rwanda. Then why does the government want to send people
So
LGBTIQ
the problem is
to
Rwanda, you're saying, really?
Yeah.
No, okay, all right. Let's talk again to Connor. Connor Summerall in Mansfield, aren't you, Connor? Hello again.
Yeah.
You've got a question for our panel.
Yeah, after seeing that Suella Braverman's continuing with the immoral Rwanda policy and are using insensitive language like the invasion on our southern border that's particularly insensitive with what's happening in Ukraine, I'm just wondering, is she up to the job of Home Secretary?
Thank you so much, Connor, for that direct question. Is Suella Braverman up to the job of Home Secretary? I'm wondering what you're thinking, Stephen Kinnock.
No, she's not. She should either resign or be sacked by Rishi Sunak. She has breached the ministerial code on a number of occasions. We've also seen there are very well-resourced stories saying that articles in newspapers and also from her own backbench MPs. Roger Gale, the MP for North Thanet in the chamber today, said when Suella Braverman took over, that's when the problems in Manston started because she stopped transferring people from Manston to other hotels. That led to the crisis we have in Manston now. Outbreaks of diphtheria, scabies. These are not the sort of things we should be seeing in 2022 in the United Kingdom, in what is supposed to be a civilized society. So because of her cruelty and because of her incompetence, the Home Secretary should resign. One word, if I may, on Rwanda. It is unworkable. It is unaffordable and it is unethical. It is not acting as a deterrent and it is costing millions and it's not right to offload our problems onto a developing country thousands of miles away.
Okay, I'm going to come to Rob on the Rwanda question in a moment, but Natalie Elphicke, do you want to respond on the specific question about Suella Braverman and her appropriateness?
Well, over the last week or so in Dover, we've seen these boat landings that we've spoken about and these terrifying instances for residents in my constituency. We've seen the dreadful situation of overcrowding, which is at the cause of the problems at Manston. And we've also seen the absolutely horrific firebombing in the Dover facility just on...
Yeah, but again, that one was down to, the guy, who was it said this? I can't remember. It was a Tory MP. He turned around and said that, the guy was on the elderly side of things and he was mentally unstable. But what fed his paranoia?
On Sunday, which I do think we should also mention in this context. But what did Labour want to talk about today? What do Labour want to talk about all the time? They want to talk about who Suella Braverman sends emails to. I think that my constituents and I want to talk about how we...
No, you fucking twat. What it's about is she is not up for the job because of that. It's not everything that Labour wanted to talk about, but unfortunately, because of her failures, and she shouldn't be in the job.
We're going to get this issue fixed, and how
again the guy who asked the question, he's like, he said he's looking at her talking, the MP, the Natalie Elphicke, and he's like, nah, fucking idiot.
We're going to make sure that we stop the small boat crossing crisis, and
I'm not too bad at lip reading, right? The guy just called her an idiot.
We save lives.
Okay, I'll let you say that, but the question he asked is Suella Braverman up to the job?
Well, I think she needs to be able to focus on the job that she's doing, and that's what I want to see. I want to see us really concentrating on sorting out the small boats crossings. It's
see, the thing is she was supposed to be concentrating on the job before all this scandal came out. Evidently, she wasn't.
An important issue, and we need to make sure that the Home Secretary...
I don't want to go on about it, but
the board largely are
a ringing endorsement there.
Well, I think that we need to see action taken on the small boats crossings.
Okay.
And, you know, as I've set out, there are a number of ways in which we can do that. But the situation that's happened in my constituency over
You guys
the
might
last
not
week, it's been
agree with
incredibly serious, and it
my
needs
brusque
urgently
nature,
to
but
be
I have
addressed.
had. I said
All right, let's go back to
TCHD, the cold hard
Rwanda,
truth, and
the
I
Rwanda
don't
question
care
that was raised earlier. And Robert
anymore,
Neil,
because they don't.
Is this arrangement so unique? I mean, I think there are third country removals elsewhere, aren't there?
There are some. I mean, Australia famously undertook those things. They don't do offshoring anymore. They stopped in 2014. I think the thing with the Rwanda policy that's worth understanding is that it's effectively a symbolic policy. It's about sending a message about what the UK is going to do, rather than actually doing something substantial. The number of people that are going to that would potentially be removed to Rwanda is extremely small compared to the number of people that are arriving on small boats. So the presumption is that it's going to act as a deterrent. Now, as we were discussing earlier on, the presumption that the sea would act, that the sea and that the risk of death would act as a deterrent and stop people from crossing over with the securitisation at the port of Calais was not successful. There's no real evidence that the deterrent effect of the Rwanda policy will be necessarily effective. And what we do know is it's extremely expensive and something of a distraction from what may be the really big problems that should be addressed, such as the clearing of the asylum backlog. Clearing the asylum backlog is in everybody's interest. It's extraordinarily expensive for the country to have to deal with more than 100,000 asylum seekers.
That's a very important point. But what is the key to that? Because we now know that the average time taken to turn round an application, I think, is today 480 days. Is the best part of a year and a half. But why is it? What takes so long?
Well, it's a very difficult question to answer. What we do know is that there was a service standard that was expected that was abandoned in 2019, and that service standard was that 80% of asylum claims would be processed within 6 months. Because that was dropped in early 2019, or after that was dropped in early 2019, we saw a very, very substantial decline in processing time, or an increase in processing time.
Not care.
So that last year,
there you go. Guys, there's another Brexit supposed Brexit thing, that advantage that was just thrown completely under the bus by people who went for Brexit. So more ammunition for you there, dads.
I mean, so in 2018, 87% of asylum claims were processed within, or were initial claims were processed within 6 months. In 2021, it was down to 6%. So the key, the Home Office does need to focus on spending money where that money is going to be best and most effective.
Okay, thank you very much. You're watching The Great Debate. Coming up after the break, Britain's employers are...
There's some really good information in this. Like, at least half of these great debates, I end up with it ending, and I'm a bit disappointed. I'm wanting more meat in the discussion, but I'll get some fantastic information, especially out of this guy. Hang on. Deputy Director of the Migration Observatory, Robert McNeil. Right, this dude knows what he's talking about, from what I can gather. There's some great information out of this.
Complaining they can't get the staff.
It just highlights Johnson and his Brexiteers and the damage they're doing, not just to our economy, but to our soul as a country.
It'd be easier to hire migrants.
Workers have been in short supply, and many doubt British agriculture can grow.
As I mentioned earlier, I wondered if they bring this up, and I wonder if this is going to be about the Brexit. This is going to bring in Brexit.
Its foreign labour force shrinks.
Because, surprisingly, in the last one, Trevor Phillips also brought up... He brought up Brexit in the last one. Not so faux pas. A topic at Sky News, apparently.
Shortage of labour cost us £250,000 in May.
The idea that you can overnight close down the borders and not allow in critical skills that we clearly aren't going to grow in Britain soon
That's just putting growth second.
Yeah, because the Tories can't be bothered to invest, or they don't want to invest in the education system properly.
First, immigration has to reflect the needs of the economy. I recognise it's a big issue for businesses, but they've got to accept that the public have concerns about that too.
Fuck's sake. This is perfect.
Having to turn.
How do we solve Britain's immigration dilemma? From telecoms to farming to construction to the health and social care sectors, there are staff shortages. Record vacancies might seem like a good idea to some, means low unemployment. But companies are struggling to fill the jobs, and that means they can't grow. So should we turn to migrants to plug the gaps? Let's talk to Cheryl in Bournemouth. Cheryl, you work in a nursery, I think.
I do. I run a group of day nurseries, and we are desperately short of staff, which means that we're having to turn parents away with their children. So we see immigration as a really good way to bring graduates into the country. But there are massive hold-ups. We're not even on the short staff list with the Home Office. So I've got a question. How can we use immigration to fill this gap? Or how else can we fill the labour shortage that we've got?
This is just it, right? This is just it. One of the biggest arguments made by Brexiteers was, especially the hard right ones, was that, who is it? Lee Anderson said it, and fucking that dickhead who owns Wetherspoons, right? To the loudest voices who said this, right? Most of this has been off the back of foreign workers. We need to stop that. We need to get more British jobs, British people in these jobs. Well, evidently that's not fucking worked, has it? Partly because the incentives are bullshit, and partly because it's jobs that British people just don't want to do. Because apparently we're entitled assholes.
Thank you, Cheryl. Louise Brown in Sunderland. Do you have the same problem?
I think that we do need more immigration, yes. Since Brexit, there's been huge gaps in services due to shortage of staff. So here in Sunderland, we used to have lots of Polish bus drivers, for example, and now a lot have returned home.
She mentions Poland, right? But the background to her camera, I know, like this fucking rat run behind me, but for her, it's a white wall. I can just about see a picture frame, but until it zoomed in, like the picture was basically her, and then behind her, a white wall, like what looked like a Polish flag. So you got like a orange or red, a dark orange or bright red sofa that she sat on. The white wall behind it, and it kind of looks like she's got the Polish flag behind her, and the thing she brings up is Polish. Yeah, it's quite funny. Oh, really? Give me a second. Gotta let the dog out. Bloody dog. Right.
Buses simply don't run properly and are very unreliable, and I'm dreading getting on them tomorrow. It's not just buses though, there's also shortages everywhere, so agriculture and food industry. And British workers clearly don't always want to fill these roles.
Just exactly what I said.
Hold that thought, Louise, because I think that's a very important point. Rob McNeil, it's a big problem, isn't it?
Well, it's certainly a challenge, but I mean, a lot of this is about low-skilled migration. And when I say low-skilled, I mean, I don't want to be pejorative about this. We're just talking about jobs that don't require a lot of training to before you're qualified to do them. But that's...
I like this guy because when he makes a statement that almost sounds provocative or incendiary, he then clarifies. Unlike nearly everyone else I hear on stuff like this, he then clarifies his statement. Exactly. TCHT, the cold hard truth. But you have to be specific. Because otherwise people are just going to take what you said and run with it. It's a motherfucker.
Those are the people that can't come into the country now, and that's effectively as a result of Brexit. Brexit, people voted specifically.
Yes. And this, again, I will reiterate, this guy is the Deputy Director of the Migration Observatory, Robert McNeil, right? This guy is blaming Brexit for our labour problems.
Try and reduce the number of low-skilled migrants coming into the UK. And that was very specifically the objective of the policy. It was the objective of Brexit. You know, the government has basically said they want to move to a high-skilled, high-wage economy. And so, yes, I mean, it creates serious problems. But the question is, are those problems that people are willing to accept in return for lower migration?
See, high-wage, high-skill economy, what happens to those on low skill? It's just, that means they get low wage then. Typical Tory.
Particularly lower skilled migration.
Okay.
Bullshit.
Stephen Kinnock, isn't part of the problem here, British workers are, well, they don't want to do certain jobs, but they also don't want too many migrants because the unions think that they bring down wages.
You need a balance. We're not going to go back to...
I'm not sure I agree with the unions on this. This is where I have a problem with Mick Lynch, but I'm not an expert, so...
Free movement of labour, that's clear. That's clearly Labour's policy. We need a points-based immigration system, but we need one that's based on proper dialogue between trade unions.
Really? Labour actually... Is that an official... Is that an official Labour line? That we need a points-based system?
And the government and employers, so that you have a workforce plan on a sector-by-sector basis, and that plan says, this is the amount of immigration we're going to need, and this is how we're going to train up our local workers and pay them properly, thus making it more attractive to homegrown talent, but without letting the sector collapse because you don't allow enough immigration to come in.
But is the net result of that actually we will have more immigrants, more migrants doing work?
I see it as a balancing out, so that you will need in some sense.
Again, I don't hate to reiterate it, actually. People need to stop being so absolutist in their thinking. There is a scale, there is a balance to this stuff.
Immigration to ensure that the sector can...
I'm not sure about his first point, but this point here, bang on.
Keep functioning, and we're seeing real problems in hospitality, in health and social care, in agriculture. But so bring the migrants in, but make sure that you make the employers give you a proper workforce plan with proper recruitment, proper way of putting wages up, developing skills and productivity. That's the deal that the government should be doing with trade unions and employers, so that over a time cycle, maybe 2-3 years, you're reducing immigration and increasing homegrown talent and opportunities. What you can't, though, do is just turn the tap off, because that's really dangerous for the sector and for the economy.
All right, I wish we could talk about it more, but we can't. We have to go to a break. You're watching the great debate.
This is why I get
There
annoyed.
are no silver bullets to this immigration dilemma, but has even talking about it become too scary? Can we start a more honest conversation about the future of immigration?
They've come to seek work in Britain and are ready and willing to do any kind of job that will help the motherland along the road to prosperity.
There is no doubt that on the doorstep, in local communities, immigration has suddenly become very high in the agenda.
All these Eastern Europeans want to come in. Where are they fucking from? We're cutting immigration across the board.
All these Eastern that one just got me. All these Eastern Europeans coming in, where are they coming from? You just answered your own question in the question, you fucking moron.
He is serious about stopping the invasion.
Again, invasion. Fuck off. It was even on LBC Cross Questions tonight. You had Ian Dale saying he would not vote Tory with Suella Braverman as Home Secretary, because even he thought her comments today were disgusting. And he is a confirmed Tory. Fuck's sake.
So to see the gymnasts, obviously, when they first...
Bollocks.
How do we solve Britain's immigration dilemma? Suella Braverman isn't the first Home Secretary to run into trouble over immigration. She probably won't be the last. Every government promises to grasp the nettle, but the issue never seems to be solved. Worse still, it's one of the topics that seems to make every politician uncomfortable. So can we ever have an open and honest national debate without finger-pointing and accusations of racism? Let's see if we can start that. Let's talk to Ray Price in, I gather, a rainy Neath in South Wales.
It is indeed, Trevor. It's absolutely hammering down here. Good evening, panel.
I've got a question for us.
South Wales, okay.
Yes. Do we need more
might be raining in Neath, but
honesty
it's
from our
pissing it down
politicians when it
down here
comes
as
to
well.
immigration? As they seem to promise everything, but deliver nothing.
Aderonke, not a politician.
Thank you for the question. I think that is very, very important. The politicians should be very, very frank and honest with everybody. It is time to break down the system that is in operation right now because they're just not working. It's just too convoluted. It's got to be broken, and people need to be honest about it and face reality and make sure that everybody has honest debate and contribution into how it works. For instance, I just go back to before we went on break, just to add to what Stephen said. We are talking about people working. There are people in this country also who are seeking asylum that are not allowed to work, and they have good skills, brilliant skills that they can contribute into this country. Why are they not being allowed to work?
Actually, that is a question that I think it would be good to put to our viewers panel. Aderonke has just asked the question, should asylum seekers be allowed to work? She says they have skills.
I think they should.
Other people say that that would encourage people to take this route. Let's see. Those who think that asylum seekers ought to be able to be allowed to work if they are in the country, hands up. Those who think that they ought to be able to work. And we're going to... that is very interesting. That is very interesting.
50, 60%, yes.
An overwhelming majority there, Natalie Elphick, think that if asylum seekers make it into the country,
55,
while they're waiting for their
yes.
refugee status to be regularised or not, they should be allowed to work. What do you think?
I think it's really important, if we're having that honest conversation, to look at why people are coming into the country, particularly on the small boats routes. We know that the majority at the moment are coming from Albania, are economic migrants rather than asylum seekers, as most people would understand it. So it is about work and about those draws to work. So I think it's really important.
I just want to reiterate here, the political situation in Albania is not stable. And the stories coming out of sex trafficking and stuff from Eastern Europe, including Albania, it is, you know, I don't agree with Germany's decision to stop migrants from Albania. You know, if their country is that shit and they don't want to live there, why are you sending them back?
Important that we just bear that in mind.
Stephen Kinnock, both Labour governments and Conservative governments in the past have held the line on this one and said asylum seekers can't work.
Well, asylum seekers are allowed to work after 12 months. Our position has actually been, and we tried to amend the Nationality and Borders Bill on this, to reduce that to 6 months. We believe that every single asylum claim should be processed within 6 months, and every person should be given leave to remain if they have passed and granted asylum and be able to work from 6 months. The government refused our amendment and insisted that it should be 12 months.
So
and
that
I think
is
that's
a change
waste.
in the Labour position. You think that actually at some point they ought to be able to work even if they haven't got refugee status yet?
Yes, no, well, we want all refugee processing to happen within 6 months. But even if it hasn't, from 6 months onward, they should be allowed to work. The current ruling is they can work after 12 months, but only in the shortage occupation lists.
Thank you very much indeed. That is all we have time for this evening. I think I just want to say thank
Stuck some
you
words there, Trevor.
to all our panelists this evening. And I'm going to actually before we go, I just want to check with our viewers panel. Stephen Kinnock says that actually we could have the opportunity for asylum seekers to work before they've got full status. Can I just quickly see who agrees with that position? Who thinks that would be a good thing to do?
Okay, there are a bunch of people
Yeah,
saying no.
and we've got a majority
but I think
there.
Yeah, I agree.
Thank you for giving me the extra time to be able to do that.
Fair enough.
That is actually all we have
I
time
wonder how
for this
representative
evening
this
now.
audience is, but still.
And it now just remains for me to say thank you to our panellists here in the studio. Robert McNeil.
That was really informative, actually. There was a lot more meat on those bones than there has been in a number of these great debates. Again, some brilliant information, and this question, I like how they're not afraid to tie Brexit into this on this Sky show, on Sky News. I like this. You know, quite often it's proved that most of the board on there that they get on, they don't agree that Brexit's been a good thing for the most part. And it's across these different things, you know, immigration, the economy. Yeah. I mean, what? I can't quite think to why people are so willing to jump onto the bandwagon that the Tories keep spouting out, despite the fact they've proven to be unsuitable for the job of running the country. I don't get it. But yeah, by the way, you know, at some point I will say I do want to. I'm trying to get hold of a decent program, video making program, so I can add some visuals to this instead of you guys just watching me listen to it. But if you've gotten to this point, you can listen through. There's some really valuable information in this, and you know, it was really quite funny to see the reactions to when the Tories speak and when the right wingers speak on shows like this. Yeah, it's a similar thing to watching BBC Question Time or anything else where you've got a panel and the Tories are on it, and I'm seeing the Tories being laughed at whilst they're talking. It's ridiculously funny. But yeah, and like I said, it's just, like I said, the information in this one is gold. It's the Deputy Director for the Migration Observatory, Robert McNeil, brilliant. And the fact that he had, you know, no compunctions whatsoever in no problems, in bringing Brexit in, you know, the subject of Brexit into this, because it is a big part of this. That's why I think Max and Political X ought to take a look at this one. You know, as I said at the beginning, from the days of pagan Britain, this island wouldn't have been what it is, or these islands wouldn't be what they are without immigration. So trying to say, oh, we don't want immigrants here, it's just stupid. And fed by fear and ignorance. So yeah, this has been my reaction to the great debate, how do we solve Britain's immigration dilemma, and some of my Dorspeki. We need to get we need to stop listening to the right on this, because all they're doing is being incendiary, and yet the common people were like, oh, it sounds reasonable. But even the bird who was talking about the fact that, you know, she was scared life out of, and she sleeps with a sledgehammer by her bed, even she was shaking her head at the Tory when she was talking. That Natalie Elphicke, when she was talking, even that woman was shaking her head, and she was terrified because of an immigrant that managed to get her who ran through her garden. Yeah, like even she was shaking her head at the Tory. So obviously the Tory point is wrong. No, that's a single point, but I'm seeing it over and over again, and it's just another one, another example. Check it out; it's ridiculous. I will put a link to this, and it's, yeah. Like, we are being led by donkeys. So, again, this has been my dog Specky and my reaction to the great debate, how do we solve Britain's immigration dilemma. Again, I will try and do a reaction to Suella Braverman's speech earlier in Parliament. That's gonna be a spicy one, a very ranty one. But yeah, I hope everyone has a good evening. Blessed to say, everyone. It's been Shadowita, and I hope everyone is okay. Have a good one, everyone.